Hey, what's up, everyone? This is BF Warmer, and I am here to talk about one of the most popular children book series, if now family book series, to ever be bought in a store or online, and basically to be published altogether, and that is the Berenstain Bears. I know it's kind of hard to believe that it's almost been 50 years. That's why we are heading into 50 years from now. In about 4 years, 50 years it'll be in 4 years that the Berenstain Bears first came into being. Now, you might ask yourself, well, who are the people responsible for creating the Berenstain Bears? What's these people? Stan and Jan Berenstain. They're the ones that created the Berenstain Bears. Basically, the reason they created it was to help the children, the sons, Mike and Leo Berenstain at the time, to learn to read. In most of the stories and situations in the early parts, in the early stories that they wrote, like the Big Honey part and Bike Lessons, are based, most importantly, Bike Lesson, are based on what the Berenstain Bears went through with their kids. Throughout the entire 40 years, the Berenstain Bears have gone through a lot of changes. In the early 1970s, the Berenstain Bears were published in the first-time book in the first issue or first story ever produced in the first-time book series called New Baby, which introduced Sister Bear into the family and changed Small Bear's name into what it is known now as Brother Bear. And and then for the past 30 years after that, or 28 years, it had been all Berenstain Bears of just Papa, Mama, brother, and sister. Throughout that time, the Berenstain Bears also ended up getting a lot of other spin-offs and of course other media coverage. For example, in 1979, 1980, the Berenstain Bears debuted in the first ever animated special, The Christmas Tree, the Berenstain Bears Christmas Tree. Later on, they would follow that up with the Berenstain Bears Let's Play Ball, the Berenstain Bears and Big Paw, the Berenstain Bears Airs Easter Special, and of course Berenstain Bears Valentine. And then after that, the Berenstain Bears would also debut in the first animated series, which aired on ABC in not ABC but CBS in 1985. I've entitled The Berenstain Bears. The difference about this series from the books was that the first or second story, was an original story meant for the animated series, while the first or second story afterwards was an adaptation of was an adaptation out of a book series. Actually an adaptation of one of the first time books, that is. This lasted to about 1987-1988. The Berenstain Bears after that went back to being just seen in the first-time book series, as well as in other new book series like Stepping into Stone, Beginner Reader, Step into Reading, and many others. Then in the early 1990s, a new step was taken for the Berenstain Bears. See, Stan and Jan Berenstain both knew that there was a lot of kids that grew up with the Berenstain Bears that were getting older and probably would grow out of the Berenstain Bears. So what did they do? Well, Stan and Jan Berenstain decided to create, believe it or not, a new series of books called the Big Chapter Book Series. But to do so, they had to call upon their sons, Mike and Leo Berenstain, to help them out. The reason for this is because they had grandkids at the time, and Mike and Leo's kids kind of understood were going through much of what many fans growing up with the Berenstain Bears, who are now reading the Big Chapter Book series, basically what any young kid would go through at this time in their lives, basically their puberty lives, or puberty, or whatever you want to call it. But for 7 years, maybe 7, 8 years, the Berenstain Bears Big Chapter Book series sold in a big way for many people. Sold millions of copies. As a matter of fact, it even got the attention of many people. But Unfortunately, like I said, after 2001, the Big Chapter book series was not published. It did spin out, however, another Big Chapter book series spin-off, which was based around the Berenstain Bears Scouts. You know, the Bear Scouts from the original animated series. Series in 1985. Then, in 2003, PBS, along with Treehouse Productions, Functions, and Stan and Jan Berenstain, released an all-new, revamped version of the Berenstain Bears. This version starred not only the Bear family, but also starred characters from the first-time book series and the Big Chapter book series that you had not seen before but only read about. These characters being Queenie McBear, and many Queenie McBear, Ferdy Factual, and many others. This series ran for about 3 years and is currently in reruns on PBS and PBS's Sprout Network, as well as PBS Kids on Demand. Currently right now, the Berenstain Bears is still the Berenstain Bears still hold the title of one of the most popular animated series and one of the most popular children's book series or family book series of all time. Right now, currently they have a stage show going on tour, which basically has people dressed up in makeup and in Berenstain Bear costumes acting out some of the stories that kids and families have read about. And most recently, Mike Berenstain was on a radio show, I think it was called Jan and Vicky or something like that, Vicky and Jan, I can't really think of the name of the radio show. Well, he discussed, and this was much to my surprise, that there are readers about my age, which is about 28, and older, if not into the senior years, that actually read the Berenstain Bears. As a matter of fact, Mike Berenstain pointed out that there have been letters that he and his mom and his family had gotten that told them that there were kids in their college years or high school years that would go up to the attics or wherever they store the Berenstain Bear books, get them out on a rainy day or a day where there was nothing to do, and they would read them. Which really is surprising, considering when you think kids getting into high school and in college would be more interested in stuff that high schoolers and college kids would be into. But no. From what Mike Berenstain had said, there are times that when there's nothing else to do, they will bring out the Berenstain Bear books and read them. Unfortunately, there was a sad moment for the Berenstain Bears family and Berenstain Bear fandom and the Berenstain family itself when Stan Berenstain passed away in 2005. Stan Berenstain, who is was basically the founder, along with his wife Jan Berenstain, and creator of the Berenstain Bears, has passed away in November of 2005. His passing was mourned by every Berenstain Bears fan. As a matter of fact, one of the newspapers in Philadelphia had a picture of the Bears family sitting on a chair with a sign saying mourning the loss of Stan, while holding a sign saying Stan Berenstain from 1923 to 2005. Now, even though Stan Berenstain is gone, his son has taken over. And even though his wife, and even though Mike's mother is as old as basically the same age as what the father would have been, she still continues to help Mike out with the series. And Mike continues to write them as well. And matter of fact, Mike even hinted at times, and it can be seen in the autobiography Down a Sunny Dirt Road, which I currently have, that some of the Berenstain's grandkids are even knowing how to draw bears and even write the stories. To the point that when Jan Berenstain passes away someday, hopefully won't be for a long time, that someone will be there to take over for her. Overall, the Berenstain Bears have survived many decades and have survived throughout many decades and many cultural changes, and have still stayed the same and still continue to garner a cult following, if not a big-time fan base following. Now, as they head into the 50th anniversary, God only knows what the Berenstain family has in store for everyone's favorite bears. On a personal note, I'm hoping one of the big time news features that we find out as we head into the 50th anniversary is that finally the Berenstain Bear family, the Bear family themselves, will get the one treatment that they have yet that has eluded them for the almost 50 years, and that is the big screen treatment. That's right, a theatrical treatment in a movie version of the Berenstain Bears. That is what I am hoping one of the big time news features will be heading into the 50th anniversary. But overall, the Berenstain Bears have been, as I said, one of the most popular children's books, family book series of all time, and they continue to be so. So until next time, this is Brian Warmer, BF Warmer, signing off, saying if you're a big time Berenstain Bears fan like I am, no matter how old you are, you need something to read, pull these books out. They will entertain you for hours. God bless.